we generally just like chat openly. If you want to talk about whatever piques your interest in the book, usually it kind of piggybacks on things, piggybacks on things, piggybacks on things, and Chris will just tell us basically if he agrees with what we say or disagrees. How we interpreted the book. Yes, just yes.
If
That
you
is
read
what.
it wrong.
You know nothing of my work.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate the patience from the mess up last week. I was on an airplane at 7 o'clock last Sunday, so
Blame it on the weather.
Mm-hmm.
We expect you'd have rather been with us too.
I did.
Yeah, I guess there's a really big conversation in this book that I don't know how long we want to wait to get into, but the direction of large corporations dictating what we buy and how quickly we buy it, and kind of the opposite of how we should be doing things. So we can start with something light and say, Chris, you mentioned you like to cook in here. What do you like to cook?
Oh man, I'll cook anything. It's kind of like woodworking to me. Our kitchen counters are like a bench top. They're maple too, so they get the hell beat out of them. Yeah, I'm always like looking for recipes in the New York Times. We made the crazy crust pizza last night, which was don't do that. But yeah, I like experimenting with whatever. But I'm not like I don't make recipes or things like that.
What's crazy
What is
crust?
Crazy crust.
You said it like we're supposed to know what that is.
Of course, don't we all? It's this.
I'm so busy avoiding advertising so I don't get wrapped up in consumerism that I miss a lot of media and I don't know what crazy crust is. So enlighten us.
Yeah, it's a recipe that was on the back of a Pillsbury flour package back in the 60s, and it was how to make this pizza with sort of a wet crust where you put the dough, which is eggs and milk and flour, into a skillet. Then you put the toppings in it while it's wet, and then you bake that, and then you take it out and you put the sauce and the cheese on and bake it again. So like everything's kind of baked into this mass of goo.
Sounds like pizza cake.
And, two stars wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably do need to take a page out of Kroll's book, though, and put your actual pizza recipe in the next revision of the Anarchist tool chest as an appendix.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have a good pizza recipe. I was working on it for maybe 15 years, like the perfect crust, especially. And then after pizza got good here, I stopped. They trust people who could do it better than me.
Okay, speaking of cooking stuff, in the chat we were talking about melon ballers, and we were well, someone brought up melon ballers and they were like, I wonder if Chris or anybody could integrate that into their shop. So into the Anarchist tool chest. Do you guys remember that conversation? But
It was
yeah.
like a replacement for a scorp, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it was a little macabre, though, like scooping your eyes out or something, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Gouging your eyes out with a melon baller.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what I said.
Then it was kind of properly sharpened as a melon baller.
Yes.
You could use it to scoop out soft wax. But yeah, I like the idea of sharpening it and using it, like, peeling the wood like ice cream. But what steel would it be, and how would we sharpen it? So let's go to Reddit for that.
Yeah.
I personally don't care how you cut the melon. I think the hardest part is getting a good melon.
Okay.
Or
Really good ingredients is the biggest problem right now. In the garden we have it, but we don't have a garden in the winter. And with that,
I just like the word melon baller. You know, that's just all. That's where that comes from. It's just.
I mean, it sounds like it could be an insult. Like he's a real melon baller.
Yes.
Yeah, I go to parties and I'm the melon baller. You know, I'm a baller, the melon baller.
Oh.
Baller.
But I wanted to, I guess, start talking about the book, just to get into it. There was like a really mundane sentence that struck me while I was reading where, like, Chris, you were talking about jack planes and getting jack planes, and you mentioned, so like this book was written in like 2011, right? So, and you were like, you know, the jack plane I bought in the 90s, I bought it in the 90s and it's worked fine for me and I still have it. And like, that's the one you still have right now that you bought in the 90s. And I thought to myself, I was like, oh my God, I have never once visualized myself using anything in my shop in, like, let's say 2040, like 2045. I was like, I've never visualized keeping anything around that long, especially because when I started, I was like, okay, I'm just going to get a job site joiner, Porter cable joiner for now. And then the goal is that I'll like have some weird like warehouse in the future with like this giant cabinet table saw and like a 12-inch joiner, which is like, girl, no, like you do not need that in your house or whatever. So yeah, that was just something that stuck out to me. I was like, you know, that's pretty messed up that I'm, you know, had that throwaway mindset, and I'm definitely trying to change that and like pare things down. But yeah, that was just something that really stuck out to me. I was like, wow, can I really imagine like buying something and keeping it until 2050, you know? So.
Well,
Thoughts?
I mean, a lot of old tools are like that. You know, they were designed to last a really, really long time. And that plane and a lot of Stanley stuff and old stuff, Preston stuff is just, I mean, it's just like Lee Nielsen. I mean, it's the same stuff. You know, you pick it up and it's like, yeah, I'm done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I now as we're thinking about, like, no, I can't imagine myself buying another jack plane. I bought one at an estate sale for $25, and I spent hours restoring it, and all the Japanning was gone because someone had dumped a can of enameled paint over it. Maybe it was like, you know, maybe a little past what maybe someone should have picked up, but I like a lost cause. And like I repainted it, and it now has shiny purple and blue duochrome paint because why the fuck not? And no, I'm never gonna buy another jack plane. But like, you know, to Bridget's point, like there's a lot of stuff that I kind of got in those early days of like, oh well, I've been watching some YouTube, because like, you know, the truth is, when I first started woodworking, a book like this would have been extremely overwhelming. And
I agree.
I'd have just been lost.
Yeah.
But coming into it as, you know, someone with some experience, it started giving me more ideas about what was possible. Yeah. But just like some of those tools, I've started replacing one of those tools. It's like, yeah, nothing I'm buying now is nothing I think that I'll use for less than 15 to 20 years at least.
It's kind of an interesting concept to think of. Like, I look for old tools and I want them partially because of their time and how long they've been in use, or the time that they've just been existing. But I haven't really thought of the number, like thinking, oh, in 2045, I'll still have this plane. Like, something about that definition just seems so strange to me. But I guess it's really the same mindset flipped, but it still seems odd. Yeah, that like future thought of like, how long will this be here for?
But yeah, I think
Yeah,
a lot
to be
of.
fair,
Oh, sorry. Go on.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say
I
a
was
lot
gonna-
of what we've talked about has been like anti-consumerism. That's been a thread through a lot of our conversations and books in this club. But that's all I had to say. You can go on, Chris.
Yeah, it's only fair to say also that I went through that too, and you know, I came out the other side of it. There's no shame in it, You know, there's one of my favorite poems by Wendell Berry begins like, "When we want you to buy something, we will call you," and that's basically how we live. You know, to this beck and call of a cycle of you know, producing stuff and consumer using it up and then getting rid of it and getting something else to feed that machine. You know, we all go through it, and there is a time, you know, a book like this could be overwhelming. I wrote it for my like 11-year-old self, even though he would have no interest in it. But you know, there's a time when you're ready for the message, and that's kind of what I'm, you know, hoping for, is to catch people before they have all of the aluminum jigs. Yeah.
That's what I found in the book. I had about a year of like machine experience, was just getting into hand tools. A friend recommended the book and I read it, and it saved a lot of pain. You know, it was like, oh, okay, we'll just buy it right and be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to imagine that like I could have been saved like a lot of pain or a lot of like excessive buying, but it's like also I know deep down that if I went back in time and tried to lecture myself, I would just be like, shut the fuck up, girl. Like, I don't care. Like, I feel like I had to kind of learn the hard way.
You're not my dad.
Yeah, very stubborn. But, you know, I'm on the other side now, so it's fine. And yeah, like I'm in my new shop now, and I'm like, just trying to get rid of all the aluminum jigs, the Porter cable dovetail router jig. I thought that was going to change my life, but it is like actually of the devil. Like,
no, it did, just not the way you thought.
It did, yes, exactly. So, yeah, if anyone wants to buy that from me, let me know.
Good sales pitch.
Really hyped it up.
When you put it that way.
She's calling it in when she wants someone to buy something. She's calling it in now.
Yes. Make the call.
Maybe you should try Reddit.
I will. Maybe I will. No, Facebook Marketplace.
That was everybody on Reddit would just tell you that the Lee is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like they would. Yeah, it'd be nonsense.
Yeah, you know.
I will just say my personal experience when this book was first released was it found me at exactly the right time. I was thinking about building like an extravagant, gigantic exterior shop on my property, and like reading it and kind of taking the perspective of like, I don't need more stuff. I don't need all of the stuff. What I have is good. So then I just, and that was going to take, I knew that was going to take 2 or 3 years out of my journey of being able to like actual progress. And so I spent, based on this book, I spent some time kind of upgrading my garage, which was my shop at the time, to make it enjoyable to work in. And it was exactly what I needed at the time, because I had little kids at the time, and it allowed me to get actual work done instead of just working on a shop, which did the last 2 or 3 years, but that's a different story, but later in life. So
yeah, I got this book after having taken a hand tools class at my local high school, where, you know, we started with a block plane and a Suzuki and a few other tools and a marking knife. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? It was finally I could do a way for me to approach woodworking that didn't involve buying a bunch of machines and a dust collector. And so it was like, what do I do next? And I found Vic Teslin's book, and then I found your book, I should say, and I built a knockdown Nicholson, and off to the races. And yeah, so for me, it was perfect, because it was like, oh, this is the guide that I need to get somewhere that I didn't think was possible.
It's nice to hear that. That people actually do listen sometimes. You don't know. I'm pretty stubborn too.
I had wished that
not everything.
I had wished this book were written like 25 years ago, because as I was reading the book, I made that mistake. I did that. I like followed you along as like a comrade. Like, oh, I remember making that mistake and that mistake and that mistake. Took me back. Anybody need a number 5? I have like 6 of them.
Apparently, I just need a couple more irons for it.
They're Canadian.
I was just gonna add on to, I did find this book a bit early into my woodworking journey when I started woodworking back in 2018 at Palomar College. And I'm glad I did, because it was during the time of my first chair making class where our instructor wasn't my favorite. He was very strong views on how things should be done, but he showed us, the class was about making a Sam Maloof low back chair. And everything about this chair needed a jig and needed a router specifically set up for each pattern. And then one of my classmates, I saw him making another chair alongside this chair, and it was Chris's stick chair. And I asked him, like, oh, what kind of chair is that? And he showed me the book and everything, and he let me borrow it, and I was skimming through it. I'm like, wow, you really don't need a lot. And here I have somebody else telling in my ears, like, oh, you need these specific routers, these tenoning tools. And it kind of seemed that, like, well, what's kind of the point of making something like this for myself if it's just going to throw me into a hole, versus something that I just need a couple of hand tools and I have somebody there, a student, willing to teach me. But yeah, at that point, I never finished that Sam Maloof chair. It sat in my backyard, weathering away in the sun until it turned into firewood. And I told myself that I would never let that happen again, because, you know, that specific teacher no longer teaches there, thankfully. But I feel like it wasn't really trying to empower the students to learn. It's more telling them of what you need if you ever want to try to be a good woodworker. So yeah, I appreciate finding your book, Chris.
Yeah, production work, you know, getting that kind of repeatability is just not necessary for people who build one-offs. You know, that's been a big struggle with or a big disconnect, I think, but with a lot of beginners is, you know, they think it has to be this exact, you know, to the micrometer thing. And like you're making parts for a factory and they all have to be interchangeable, when really, you know, handwork and handcraft is just about fitting one part to another. And if it looks good, it is good. And also remember, you know, the boat makers saying, which is, you can't see both sides of the boat at the same time. So there's like lots of room for, you know, what we think of as horrible errors because we can measure it with micrometers, when really it's just so far gone from what's important. It's just crazy.
I wanted to thank you, Chris, though, for this is the first time I've read the book. I wish I had it back when I started. It was 35, 40 years ago, but it wasn't available. But all the things that you said about the tools, I have a lot of those tools. I don't always use them anymore, but and some of them were so inexpensive that and not very good, because I didn't have the wisdom and the money to purchase high quality. And when I started out, the best thing you could get new was probably a record plane, and those things are horrible. It was before Lee Nielsen. So all of the advice you gave me, given that book, I did early on a little bit on my own for many of the same reasons, mostly because I couldn't afford like a Norris plane or this or that. I mean, I was just starting out in an apartment in Brooklyn, New York, and had very little money to do anything. So, and you go to, we've all been down made mistakes. We bought routers we shouldn't have bought. We bought machines that we don't really use. Those are wasted money. But mostly when you buy a really good hand tool, like a Stanley, I have a Stanley Nora 4 that I've had for 35, 40 years. And that's going to hold value. It's not going to, unless you throw it on I don't know how you damage it, but I have one that I've had for a long time, and I put it up against my Lee Nielsen number 4, and it's just as good. Even with, well, it has a hot blade now, but those tools were so made for craftspeople to use, and I think we should be looking for usable tools, and the used market is a good way to start. So I wish that book was available earlier. I agree with all the things you said about the all the different tools that we should have, like hollows and rounds. I have a set of hollows and rounds I bought 30 years ago, which don't really work. But sadly, I only got two of them working. I wish there was more advice on how to. I mean, I'd love to buy new ones, but I can't afford that right now. I don't think that's feasible. And I use a combination of hand tools and power tools, but the hand tools give the most joy to the work and setting up planes and chisels and things like that. But the beginning part of the book, most of it was all about advice, which you're giving to beginner woodworkers, and that's really valuable. The end of the book ended on a really high note of the philosophy of surviving as an artist, because I was a starving artist, and I found ways of doing it. I've been self-employed my entire life, so I can see that young people are being burdened by debt, um, just crippled by the fact that they had to pay for college. When I was in college, basically I had, you know, it, scholarships all over the place to do things. I think that's going away. Especially if you're interested in medical degrees, then you're really going to be screwed. And we need more nurses and doctors, but apparently we cripple them with these unbelievable debt. So my advice is buy high quality, just like you said, if you can, and eventually you'll have a good set of tools that you can make pretty much anything with. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been great to be out of the corporate world, and that's the other thing that I, really hope comes through with that book is, and also all the other crap I write all the time. But I cannot. It's almost impossible for me to explain how much healthier and happier, even if I'm poorer, it doesn't matter. Just how much better my life is. Being on my own and not having to do horrible things that people above me tell me to do when I don't have a choice in the matter. Stuff that I know that is bad for the environment, bad for the customers. The only person I'm helping is the people in the boardrooms, and that's gone. And now I am a real person, and that's what I hope to give people a little bit of a taste of. It doesn't have to be woodworking. If you're a coder, God, I'm so sorry, because of AI, but there are other things that could be done, like code woodworking sites for people like me who don't know CSS or whatnot. There's lots of people who do that sort of stuff that still, can be, you don't have to make furniture, and because it's hard. But yeah.
It does feel like maybe, I don't know, it feels like we're at a tipping point right now, like where we're going to go with some of these corporations and stuff. They're getting like so big. So many corporations are now so many things. I work right now because I've been largely unemployed for a little while now in media. So I am always following that. And they're just constantly like swallowing themselves up and splitting themselves up again and swallowing themselves up and then putting out whatever product. And then the trickle down is felt by everybody so much, from like the fucking food we buy to the tool. I mean, we're talking about tools here, but the bigger message of the book, right? Is it long enough now? The bigger message of the book is like, what's the world going to look like in like 10, 20 years when like three companies make everything? And nobody makes anything.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's like when any organization, whether it's a church or a government or a corporation, gets to a certain size, their good people start finding a way to do bad things or get told to do bad things. There's never been a war that was started by like Gary. Gary didn't start a war. It has to be done by a very large organization if we're going to kill a lot of people. So yeah, it's thinking as small as possible, and that's much more humane way to live for me.
Yeah, getting out of corporate is huge. as you've been talking a little bit, I thought about it. I left my corporate job about 1.5 years ago. And then last year I started working in a small professional custom cabinet shop. And just it's my life's pretty great these days. I went away to furniture school and then I got a job in the cabinet shop. And I don't have to fix people's computers anymore. And that's kind of joyful, isn't it? But just like the amount of, I get to take pride in my work in a different way. Like, it's not just like I did this thing that met this objective on this spreadsheet from someone who doesn't really understand that I do what I do. And no one who I work for actually understands what I do, but they know that people seem to think that they need me. So I still had a job until I didn't. And then just like, oh yeah, I go to work and I do this thing. And regardless of whether or not I've been successful, there is evidence of the work. And that connection to the work and seeing the actual like result of what you've done, your time and your effort and your labor. You know, even if the next day we're going to come back and I'm going to, you know, rip that cabinet apart and rebuild it, you know, at the end of the day, I can still see, regardless of the result, that I have worked. Versus like, oh, I wrote 250 lines of code and scripts and configuration files, and it didn't quite work right, so we deleted it all. Just one more thought. I realized that in the time since I left my job, that probably everything that I wrote or built or created for them is no longer in use. You know, maybe some of the structures, some of the background structure stuff I set up on one project, but like every trace of the work that I did and and honestly, real craftsmanship I put into my work, it's just gone. Just so much digital detritus. So that connecting with the work differently, you'd believe a lot of things in this book really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Because I read it in the period after I quit my job, but before I went to the CFC for school.
Mm-hmm.
Good time.
But yeah,
I also
like
have to say that
just right time.
one thing I would also add, and this may seem obvious to everybody here because we're staring at screens, is just how different my life is from a physical point of view. The fact that I'm on my feet most of the day, I sleep so much better. I'm tired physically at the end of the day. You know, it's just a much healthier, humane way of living than you know, when you're a magazine editor. Even at a woodworking magazine, there's very little woodworking involved in the actual process. So even though I was doing something I really loved, or reading and editing and photographing it, in the end, you know, being at the bench for 4 to 6 hours a day is I can't lose that ever now. And I'd say it's really hard to explain to people how good that is for you. And then the last thing I'll kind of add to anybody who's thinking about doing it, and it sounds like I'm trying to push people off a cliff, is figuring out that how little you really need, how little support you really need to do it yourself. You know, someone once told me you need about 1,000 people to be, you know, to support you, you know, if you're, whatever that business is, whether it's, you know, making books or furniture or whatnot. And it's not even that big. I've really been surprised by how little you need to like, how you don't have to be this big person, big corporation, or do big things to survive just well. Like our Substack, I think we have 3,000 paid subscribers, and those 3,000 people pay for all of our salaries. Like at Lost Art Press, it really doesn't take a lot of.
That's incredible.
It's easier than you think. You're just scared. I was just scared. I stayed on too long for sure.
But I think one
Not
concept
as hard
in
as
the
you think.
book.
You're just scared. You come with that, Chris? Jeez.
Well, I think one concept that ties with the book is like this concept of enough, right? I think that really ties a lot of it, and just like recognizing, like what is enough, and if you really kind of calibrate yourself to that, that's right. A lot of that stuff shrinks, I think you had a quote about money, and I think it was a Substack post or something along those lines. You just kind of viewed it as like water from the faucet, where it's like, if I need it, I want to go turn on the faucet, get what I need, have my drink, turn the faucet off, and then walk away. And just that, like I said, if more people have that internalized concept of enough, a lot of it shrinks and slows down. So.
Yeah, where most of us think of like Scrooge McDuck and this giant vat of money is what we need, and it's really it's just a drink of water.
He needed his nephews. That's what he needed.
He needed love.
Yes.
Wow.
I watched that. He needed the nephews for the adventures. The money meant nothing. And the dime.
Sure. Yeah. Just a swim in. Yeah.
Just a swim in.
Yeah, but I think this book touches on, something I think all of us have dealt with or thought about, is just like how the average job is so demoralizing and so like insulting to your humanity. And just like when I was in corporate, like I would just have like ideations about like writing like the worst Glassdoor review or whatever, and stuff like, and just like it's like I worked at a really big company back in the day, but it's like the work was so demoralizing and the managers were so antagonistic. And it's like, I feel like a really big part of one's spiritual journey is to like get the confidence and courage to be like, fuck you guys. I need to like take care of myself. And that's like a huge thing, but it's really hard to do. And I've had, like, I was a freelancer for the last 3 years, but I've had a lot of support, so I'm lucky in that arena. But yeah, it's, I think a lot of this book touched, on a lot of that. Oh, folks in the
Yeah. I mean, my media career, I was a reality TV editor, and then last year, I don't know what's going on anymore. So I'm in the middle of a bit of an existential crisis of where I'm going to go with my career right now in my life, because I can't like just quite check out yet. I'm 48, so I'm old enough that I'm like, it's an awkward period for me, I guess. All those Gen X articles they write. So a lot of this book did touch me a little bit because, and this is my first time reading it, was for this book club, was because I'm like, yeah, because I actually did enjoy what I did as a TV editor. I liked what I created. It's you can go out and find the work that I did. So in a way, I did feel like I was putting something out there in the world, whether you like it or not. So it's been a little sad, and I feel like a little buffeted by the world right now. But I did found the message encouraging. I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet. I don't have a great answer, but I did find it encouraging. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay.
I was going to say.
I have a question. I think.
Well,
go ahead.
Chris, one of the underlying themes of the book, which I get, is self-sufficiency, and helping. I think craft is a great doorway for people to understand that they can do things on their own. They don't have to have everybody helping them and have someone tell them what to think and what to do. It's about freedom, and it works. Me and my wife started out as starving artists, and now are fine. Of course, we're in our 70s, so it takes a long time to get there. And I think there are certain advice that Chris sort of touches on a little bit is about self-sufficiency, is don't go into debt and pay your mortgage off if you have a mortgage, and get started with saving money very early on. You're going to need it. And then you can set up a business that has a small number of people. Me and my wife set up a business to restore grand pianos in Beacon, New York, that we did for 30 years. And believe it or not, we did very well. And we did some of the calculations. We lived in a little house that had a big carriage house with a shop, and the carriage house ended up not costing us anything in the long run. And lots of surprising things happen when you start thinking you're going to fix things and do things. We restored the house, restored the shop. We did our own electrical in the shop, our own dust collection. Didn't have hire people to do those things, and so don't buy new cars. Things like that help people like us who want to do it. And there's a lot more people out there who really want to do what we're doing. And I think that's very encouraging. I've never worked for corporate, so I'm not sure how bad that would be. I kind of feeling I would not fit in at all. So I'm saying that self-sufficiency starts with the tool and starts with the courage to use it and to do things. And you're going to make mistakes, so that's fine. But you will get there eventually. After 40, 50 years, you're going to be fine. But if you want to be taken care of right away, go get a job. You might end up having mental illness and thought of suicide and all kinds of things like that. I think the best thing is to go down the path that you are for yourself.
I'd like to say something. I I'd like to know what feedback I can gain from the fact that how the woodworking has transitioned over the past. I've been in woodworking for 40 years now. I'm actually 70 years old, and it's transitioned from mostly power tools to this whole emphasis on hand tools that Christopher Schwarz was instrumental in bringing back, and now we're faced with the third chapter, which is CNC oriented woodworking, shape or origin. So I'm wondering. So we had a battle at one point. Christopher Schwarz, you can chime in on this on transitioning from power tools to hand tools, and then of course the hybrid woodworking came in, which is almost what I do. But I lean towards hand tools as much as I can, but now we're faced with, because I teach and I give seminars, and I'm always confronted with so why don't you just get a CNC machine and do it with a CNC machine? And I'm starting to. There's so much advertising now in magazines. Just case in point, Fine Woodworking and Shape of Origin comes around, and their course is on Shape of Origin now, and it's just a small version of the CNC. So how do we tackle this issue of we've gone to such extremes now that CNC's entered the picture. Our youth, younger people are the dilemma is, why should we even bother with hand tools? Now, the original dilemma was, why should we bother with hand tools with the traditional machines like joiners, table saws, band saws? But now we're facing the next phase. How do we cope with all this? What answers do we give them? Because it's really, it's really muddied everything. I find it's really, and there's so much emphasis on marketing. Sure, you can all corroborate this. So, is any feedback on this?
Yeah, CNC. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think of it as they're all tools. Yeah, there always will be new tools. And if you have great pleasure in using a CNC, which I don't doubt most people probably would get that. I'm sure there are a few people. And you get pleasure from it, then you should follow that. But if you have pleasure from using, a table saw, use a table saw. If you have pleasure from using a hand plane or a scraper, do that. If you have pleasure in owning really beautiful little tools, do that. Don't worry about the fact that there's some code of. It's not. I don't think that there's a conspiracy to destroy the craft through introducing new tools. New tools always. Some of them can. I mean, you can do that. I think the problem is there's no better way to think about it. Is that what you personally get pleasure from working in the shop, and when you figure that out, that's the path you should go on. Don't bother with CNC if you don't love it. If you love it, I have a Shaper Origin. I do enjoy using it once in a while. I don't think it takes the place of hand joinery. It doesn't take the place of other tools I own. I have a thickness planer and a joiner. I still have a scrub plane and a scrub jack. I can still do it by hand if I need to. I enjoy it once in a while. And there's a great pleasure in hand tool work. You're connecting with the wood much more intimately. Every time you go step back and use digital tools, you get less and less hands on the wood. Of course, I'm an artist and I have digital art background, but that's only because I'm a crappy artist.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I understand what you're saying, but we've already been exposed to hand tools and traditional machines, and even we're aware of CNC, so we can choose. But I find that everybody 20 years old now, there's just so much marketing emphasis on CNC that they're never going to be exposed to anything else except CNC.
Don't be.
It's the same as the lead
I
dovetail jig,
disagree.
right?
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
be discouraged.
I disagree.
I mean,
Because
So-
everybody I know, like I know so many people who are in their early 20s, 25, 30, who are eating up every Lost Art Press book, everything adjacent to that. They're working with hand tools. Yeah, do not be fooled.
Yeah, that's marketing, I think,
Yeah.
too, that belief in
Right.
what's being shown to you. But I do think that there'll always be like a craft furniture roots movement. I mean, and I think that's at the heart of where it takes us, right? And then we get other people who will feel that passionate about it as well. And there will always be a pocket of people who are highly invested in that emotional, passionate connection to our work that aren't the 7 a.m. till 10 at night for somebody else and need to make. So I think as much as that marketing's out there and it really is in our face quite a bit, I don't think that that's everything. I think it's just another niche of woodworking, essentially.
To add on to that, to Charlotte Creek, I am 28 years old and I am fully into nothing but hand tools. I give it to Chris, and I took a class from the CFC with Israel Martin. He's from Spain. I love him. I got really close to him. So 2 years ago, I sold all my power tools, my chop saw, table saw. Really all I have is some power drills, but I started investing into more hand tools. I might be more dramatic, but I can't see myself doing any work other than what I'm doing now. That what I'm reading in Chris's book, what I'm reading in the chair maker's notebook, because I wanted to start making chairs. So I feel the same way that this media can get overwhelming, especially for this younger generation. I'm being blasted, and I teach high school boys with behavioral disorders that spew everything they see online. So I think it's not so much about the companies per se, but I think it's really where your eyes are falling onto. If you're going to fall onto this sort of convoluted, how do you want to say, conversation of just like, oh, what power tool is going to replace what? In reality, it's just what are we doing to embrace what we're capable of. I love hand tools because I know that in the end, I'm in control of the whole process 100% of the way. I can't blame my tools. I have to blame myself, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think also
exposure for sure.
It's
Sorry,
also important to point out
I was
that,
gonna say. I was going to say the Anarchist Tool Chest book also exposed a path forward where with a bench and a box you can make anything. So like even the younger generations and even more space restricted than Gen Xers or millennials, like having no space, working from apartments, working from little nooks and crannies, and this style is it's a big 4x CNC is just not gonna be in those people's even as an opportunity. So I think that was one of the messages from the Anarchist Tool Chest was we got this little small package, and from there I can just make stuff till I croak, and then I'm good. So
Absolutely.
that was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I grew up in
thanks,
apartments
Tom.
my whole life. I didn't live in a house until I was 18, and that was only for 2 years. So I am constricted always by space, and I agree with that message.
It's also important to note that like a CNC doesn't build things. It cuts out parts. Like it cuts out parts to very precise sizes. But a person actually has to take those things away and actually assemble them into a thing. And they have to do so with accuracy. And it takes real skill. Like, it's...
And the programming's the
Yeah,
same way.
like,
Like I'm proficient with a hand tool, but not the design, so
Yeah.
it takes a different kind of skill. It's just Yeah, different niche.
Yeah, like our engineers and drafters are just as much craftsmen as the people working in the shop, but just because the CNC cut the piece of plywood out and pre-drilled some shelf holes doesn't mean it doesn't take a person to actually make sure that the thing has been built correctly, that it looks good, that to touch the surfaces and make sure that they feel right and that they're going to look right. Like, it still takes a human to do that, and it still takes skill, and you know what? And it still takes a block plane and a sharp set of chisels. And would I love to use some of my other hand tools more? Yeah. But I get to do that when I make furniture at home, and I still get to do that. But like, it takes real skill. And like, the CNC is not assembling the cabinets for you. It's not building the thing. It doesn't.
I agree with what you're saying. I
Doesn't give
agree.
it its life.
Some good points, very good points. But on the other hand, what might be occurring is a dumbing down of woodworking to where we actually use these CNC produced little components and work towards getting them together instead of introducing craftsmanship into.
Well, I
No,
feel like
just
there's
I'm not
always, yeah.
A little easier to like try to figure, like, if you're gonna noodle around and like, I'm gonna monkey around and figure out how to make this thing. I feel like if you know how to use your hand tool, the learning curve is lower than like sitting at the computer and trying to punch it into the CNC,
Well, I feel like there's always in every generation been like kind of a, these damn teenagers, these damn kids mentality. And I want to throw it back to Chris and ask, do you have any thoughts on people who come to you and are like, oh no, but woodworking's dying out, or the, nobody's going to appreciate the true craftsmanship? Because I feel like that's a constant thing that constantly comes up, but I don't know. I have faith in the people,
Sure. Well, one thing I do want to say about CNC is that a lot of it has to be for me, is how the machine is used. I do find tools to be somewhat neutral in that, if I have to go to a factory and work on a table saw all day as the cutout person, which I've done, I hate that saw. But if I have that table saw in my shop and that's what allows me to feed my family and gives me independence from, the factory, then that's a good thing. We've had CNC for a long time. I saw it 20 years ago when it was at its beginning stages at IWF and AWFS. And now it's just become like, well, we can now make it small and affordable for people. Right. It's been around for a long time.
It's gone mainstream.
It's now a tool people can own.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, it's another option out there, and it can be used to enslave people, or it can be used to liberate them. And not trying to talk in totally political terms, I'm talking about personal liberation. But that's how I see these tools. What I don't like about CNC and why I don't bring it into my shop is because it's like cheap appliances that have a very short half-life. You have software upgrades. I mean, I wish I could get rid of my SawStop because it's an electronic thing that fails all the time. And what I like to use are things that are, if it's a machine, it goes back and forth, around and round, and hand tools, things that I can fix myself. That's what makes me self-sufficient, and why, I'm not going to buy another thing that's going to be obsolete in a couple of years. It has to be completely bought over again. But to get to Bridget's question is, wood is the most like renewable and plentiful resource on building material on this planet. We're going to always be connected to it. Our civilization was built on it. It still is. There's a limited amount of plastic we are going to run out of dinosaurs eventually and their poop, but the wood is the future, and there's just no doubt in my mind. And so I don't have any worries about us becoming robots when it comes to our personal surroundings, because anytime someone comes in contact with something real that's made, they desire it. I mean, as far as furniture goes, when you finally feel something that's really well made and fantastic, it hooks you in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like wood is the future. I want that on a t-shirt.
So yeah.
Chris, do you view this book as a philosophy book?
I'm not a philosopher at all. And I feel I'm more of a foot soldier for anarchism, in that I don't sit around, thinking about anarchist thoughts and anarchist structures and things like that. So instead, what I'm trying to do are kind of leave breadcrumbs for how I live, and the word that best describes it is anarchism. So I feel like it's more like a practical guide to being a small town anarchist who doesn't wear leather jackets and stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just not your typical, like the kids who were anarchists in my high school. They had some dental hygiene issues, but that's what I think of myself as. It's just sort of a practitioner, a foot soldier for not a good word, but a frontline person for that kind of thought.
I remember there was a question in the chat we had said we were going to ask about when you're teaching your students to do the toolbox, where do they often get stuck?
Well, yeah, we call that class the Dovetail Death March, because it's like 4 days of dovetailing. You dovetail the box, the skirts, the dust seal, and then Friday you do the lid with through mortises and a lot of complicated grooving. I think usually most students just wear out from fatigue, because we're doing it all in 5 days, and we've tried to stretch it to 7 days at times, and we still end up at the same place. It's like there's only so much effort that people can do over a period of time before they become exhausted, and so they get stuck in classes on Wednesday night or Thursday morning where they just can't do another. They just don't want to do another dovetail.
Sure, that checks out.
Yeah, what I wanted to do, the way I wanted to fix the class was getting back to dovetail jigs, because I love that. Because I was going to use the Lee jig, because the Lee jig is the best dovetail jig. To do like the first 2 corners, like do the 2 back corners of the chest, and maybe the corner, have that all prepared so that they're only doing 2 corners of the chest at the front, and maybe 2 corners of the skirt, so that we could get into the guts, making the trays and stuff like that. And maybe I don't think you really need that much dovetailing over 4 days. Maybe we'll do that.
But students rebel probably against that idea.
Yeah.
Chris, one of the things that you brought up in the book that I was very interested in is some of the design concepts about designing the chest. And I think one thing that we've left out of the conversation is we've talked about taking the human out of the equation for building with the CNC, but we haven't talked about how important design is to the longevity of furniture, and maybe exposing more people to design ideas and high quality design will bring more people into the fold, because the CNC is not going to do it. AI can't do it. So we're still designing. And if you look at the very finest cabinet makers still around, they're more interested in doing the design. They don't care what tool they use. They can use a table saw, a router, CNC, it doesn't matter. The design is really what matters. because they want to make it a functional piece and they want it to be beautiful. And people like Hank Gilpin, he works with hand tools a lot, but he also has a lot of power tools. I don't think he'll ever use a CNC. He doesn't need to. He's fast enough by hand and he has helpers. But the beauty of his design is where the strength is in his work. So if we're going to talk about becoming self-sufficient as woodworkers, we have to talk a little bit about how we can get ourselves doing design on everything we build, instead of relying on copying and things like that. Those are very good educational things to do, to copy 18th century or whatever you're going to be interested in. But Chris did bring up some interesting things in the book about the shape of the case being related to the human body, and the argument that we should be using imperial measurements over metric. I believe in that strongly. Like, I can't remember how big the human head is in centimeters, but I know it's 9 inches high approximately, because I studied artistic anatomy. And anatomy plays a huge role in designing architecture and furniture. And you had a good way to sneak that in there, which I thought was very clever. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, design is for me the subtext that I can't write about very well. I mean, there are people like George Walker and Jim Tolpin who can turn their design ideas into words. My design concepts are, of course, basic anatomy, where it starts. But as far as making it beautiful, that's the big mystery for me. I mean, I know how I do it, but it's not helpful to tell you. I mean, it's like, okay, first I want you to look at these 10,000 pieces of furniture that I've studied, and then we'll talk, because that's how I design. But it does have to start with how long is your arm, and how squares are pleasant, and these basic proportions are pleasant. I'm not talking about the golden meaningless, but we have proportions that we like. Like if you show people 10 blocks and you ask them which are the pretty ones, they'll point to the ones that are 3 and 5 and 5 and 7, almost, way more than the others. So there are things that are true. But can you build furniture with that? Try to design a cabinet with the golden section. It'll look like garbage. Just the golden section.
Quite right.
Yeah, if you stick too rigidly to any single principle, you're going to end up looking computer generated.
Yeah, AI has probably picked up on that already. But there is a vocabulary in our history. We could study images. Now we have so much more images and books available, that developing the historical evidence of good design is around us all the time, and we just need to keep paying attention to it and coming up with our own designs based on what we put on our head in terms of other designs, like Chinese furniture, for example, or arts and crafts, or whatever you're interested in. Go look at that stuff and pay attention to it. There's a whole bunch of young people aren't going to museums anymore, so museums are having a hard time figuring out having enough patrons. It's very sad, because when I was growing up, going to a museum was really one of the highlights of my life.
But we do have thousands and thousands of images. You can go on First Dibs and get a first-class education in things. One of the last things I'll say about design that is important to me too is that I've read every book I can get my hands on about furniture design, and learned about Fibonacci sequences and all of the different ways to graduate drawers and stuff. And you have to also get to the point where you can go beyond that. Like, I built a lot of campaign furniture, and these are functional pieces that disobey every single law or guideline in every design book, drawers that don't graduate and all this stuff. And once you can get past that idea, oh, these don't graduate, and you look at it, they're still beautiful. And sometimes it's that we take these design rules and apply them, and I'm like, oh, well, is the piece beautiful because it followed the design rules, or do I think it's beautiful because I know those rules? So I think it has to be broader than just a book or two.
That's why I love folk art so much and folk furniture, because there's a lot of weird objects, especially like all the weird chairs that like I've seen on slideshows or whatever, just like weirdly proportioned, funky little items. Yeah.
Weirdly proportioned to our, to what we think of as design,
Right.
but what actually turns out to also work. Oh, that also works.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you got to be open to that, and
It's amazing what
go
works.
see the funky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even that
Yeah, when it
that stick chair generator computer, when you click the little random dice thing and you see all these, and you're like, huh, I never really thought about that, but that kind of works. Like maybe there's
What's
something
that?
there. Yeah.
A stick chair
the little-
generator?
layout computer.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen
layout
this?
computer?
Somebody needs to
Layout
put a link in
computer.
the chat right now. Right
Yeah.
now, Chris.
That's awesome.
Right now.
Wow.
Okay.
A
Layout
new
computer
website.
will change your life. Yeah,
Oh,
it changed my life. It's free and it's so good.
Oh,
It gets
okay.
better all the time.
Oh, I love things that are so good and free.
Yeah, no, the guy is a
Constantly
passionate. I
updating
give
it.
him money all the time. He's a German guy and is just
Oh,
it's so good.
shoot.
Holy shit.
We even he had a
Yeah,
taste
it's
for-
just sliders, It's just so cool. And then you can
Oh,
look
gosh.
at them all.
And it's cabinets also. He just has made it.
Yeah,
so
the cabinets
Yeah.
are great, and the dovetail
All right.
layout. He's it's just a huge resource. I hope
Oh
that
my gosh.
I'm going to be distracted for a bit. Might miss the Super Bowl.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's really cool.
I'm gonna make something real jacked up. Okay. I'll go back
Hell
to
yeah.
that later.
Yeah,
Well,
let
it's
me
like-
make sure I-
Okay, has anyone ever heard of the YouTube series Monster Factory with the McElroy brothers? Where it's so funny, and they basically take video game character creators and they try to make like a monstrosity, just like the craziest thing they can in the character creator. And it's hilarious, but I think I'm gonna try to bring that energy to this new website that you guys have
Please share.
put me
try
on.
to
I
break
will.
yeah, we're
You have to actually build whatever you design, though.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Don't
So,
threaten her with a good time.
Yeah. So that's how I usually decode photos is, I use a layout computer to try to mimic what I see in the photo and then rotate it around and see if it works and, tweak the rake and splay. So that's always it's a great jumping off place for designs.
Yeah.
It cuts through a bunch of crap.
Also, I need to call out when we, Chris, you joined us last year when we did the Intelligent Hand. And one of the things that we talked about was even just like tracing images of furniture.
Yes.
And I started doing it. And it had like, and when I find a piece exceptionally compelling, I was like, okay, I'm just going to find a picture of it. And I just do it on my iPad. And like, it helps me understand that piece so much better. And it has nothing to do with formal rules of design. And it's just like, so thank you for that. I was just,
Sure.
made me think of that.
I've
Like,
had that revelation so many times, just tracing a piece. It seems like a dumb operation, like you're just, but it's like, oh, that's why you see, you're forced to
like,
reckon
oh,
with how the parts relate to
let's
each
see.
other.
That's how that works, or that's why
Yes.
that works. That's how those two things relate to each other. Like, it just helps you.
Or that's
really
not a
have to
straight
break
line.
down.
Yeah.
You really have.
Yeah,
to
that's not a
break
straight
down-
line. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really breaking down the piece of furniture into points and irises, and vertexes, and just like, and forms and blocks, and kind of do like different sort of layers of like rough shapes and different details. It's changed.
Yeah, I think you guys are
practice.
helping me write my table of contents for a book on design right now. So yeah, tracing is huge.
Anytime. We're here for you. We're your
Okay.
ultimate fan club.
I'll credit you all. Thank you, book club.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're at about an hour, 10 minutes into this, so I think we're probably going to start closing it up unless, does anyone want to come in with some final questions? Or I know we had a really full meeting this time, so it was kind of hard to get a word in, but
I did have one question.
yeah.
I think regarding the landscape that has changed since you initially wrote this book, kind of, I feel like the 2011 there was a kind of like the internet, everything is possible, and we had RSS feeds, and we didn't have the rise yet of the all empowering corporation. Do you think there is much change, or how has it changed? It seems like somebody new is trying to start out, whether it's Substack or Instagram, Facebook. All of these things seems like they're rigged in a way, right? So, what is the difference you think between 2011 timeframe when you were starting this and somebody trying to forge a similar path today?
Yeah, there have been huge changes, and the biggest one now is we have almost too many voices. I think when you go out on YouTube, and the number one thing I hear from people beginning is, they just have so many voices in their heads from watching too much video or reading too many books, which is true. It's okay, or whatever that you really what you just need to do is you need to go out and pull a branch down off a tree and take a knife to it, and that's way more valuable. It's just like that's the first step, is actually doing something and not fussing around with the videos. And then I would say, pick somebody, anyone that you want to follow their path, and follow that person, and just kind of stick with them for a while until they do something, they become a Nazi or something. And that you'll go so much faster, and just take a very few number of in-person classes to accelerate sharpening and joinery and surface prep, and just those basic classes. You'll end up so much farther than if you watch all the videos or read all the books.
We like books around here.
No, that's good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to chime in, but I don't necessarily have a question, but I just want to say, thank you for the newsletters, like all of them you've got on Substack, because they have been extremely valuable. Like the book, same as everybody, it came at a good point of getting me to stop buying things and think about what do I want to do. But the newsletters are just kind of a continual exposure to things, and I don't know exactly how to express it, but like even the link you sent of the chair dump of chair images, that it's not something that I have access to, or there's no chairs around here that like I can go see, but here's this repository that's fantastic and invaluable. And just thank you for sharing everything that you do. A lot of stuff goes in that newsletter that is normally harder to get, that is just great. And even like Never Sponsored had a weird effect of like, I really liked reading you talking about things to go buy, but the way you talked about them got me to expose, okay, that's how you use it. I'm never going to buy this because I'm never going to do this. But it still satisfied that weird little, I want this new thing itch.
Yeah. That's part of it, is like, what we used it's fine, but you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got through that. Yeah. And now we're, repatriating it somehow. But yeah, it's weird. But on tool reviews, I'll just say that, like, for a long time I didn't do tool reviews because we also make tools. But then I came to the conclusion that I really know what's screwed up with tools now, and because I make tools, and I know how hard it is and how easily it is to abuse that with marketing. But really, I don't know. I'm lucky that I have a place for all this shit to go, that I have to write about. Otherwise, I don't know. I would just be piling up here and with no place to go. So thank you for reading it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Shane. I appreciate how transparent you are, and I feel like your philosophy has been a huge beacon in my life of someone who like lives their values self-sufficiently, takes care of their community. Like, I feel like that's kind of, the goal for everyone. I mean, unless you're like a weird aspirational billionaire, but yeah, I really appreciate like the transparency and yeah, like all the peak. Like I'm like, oh, this is actually like something a human can do and not, lose gainful employment and end up on the street. So, yes, thank you.
Thanks. I mean, it's so much easier to just be yourself. And just like let it hang out there because I'm not smart enough to remember, how many layers of lies, all those layers of illusion or whatever. But it is liberating to just have no secrets, So just answer whatever question.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up and close out the recording. But thank you everyone for coming to this and reading along. And does anyone know what our next book is? I don't know. Owen's in the auxiliary chat. So
Hanging Tree
It
Guitar.
is the Freeman
Hanging Tree
Vines
Guitar.
Hanging Tree Guitars.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. And again, thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Love having you moderate. So
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, Chris.
It was fun.